Welcome to Camp Confidential, Beyond the Bars. I'm Katrina McLaren, and with my co-host Cheryl Womack, author, entrepreneur and philanthropist, we tell it like it is. In Season 1, we take you inside the walls of a women's federal prison camp. From pre-sentencing to navigating daily life behind bars, we offer practical advice, survival strategies and insights that no one tells you before you go in. No sugarcoating, no cliches. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Be sure to do your own research and consult a professional. Today's episode is titled Under the Microscope and is based off the book How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison by the Cheryl Womack, available now on Amazon. Now, Cheryl, what lines of communication do you have in prison with the outside world?
There were really only 5 ways to communicate with the outside world when you're in prison. You could email them. They can email you, you can email them. So that can go both ways. You can set up a video chat for 25 minutes, and that is a two-way communication, but you have to establish it. Only you can make phone calls, and you have so many minutes per month to make those phone calls, whether you use them all in 3 days or you spread them out over the month. You can do mail back and forth, and that can come from both ways, whether you're sending books or packages, either way, gifts. And then the way we're going to talk about for now is you can come in person to visit through the visiting room.
So how do you start off with visitation? How do you get people approved? How does that process all happen?
Right. So the most important thing you need to remember is that when you get your PSA, which is that original document that they've written on your background of everybody involved in your life, in that PSA report, your children are going to be in there, your grandchildren, your parents, your spouse, your brothers and sisters. If their names are in that PSA report, they will be automatically approved by the counselor. They don't have to fill out paperwork to get submitted, to get cleared. Literally, there's a clearing process, and they'll check to see if you have a criminal history, et cetera, and you have a form that has to be filled out. So the PSA is really important. When you get in there, you want to ask for the form from your counselor to give him where you're going to put your names down of the people who are in the PSA. And you have a total number of visitors that can be on your list at any one time of 10 people. So if 10 people come off your PSA, there's your 10 that you get to have for visitors. So if they don't, let's say I had 5, I think that I had maybe 7 coming in on mine, that I had 3 more that I could put in for people. So then they give you forms, other forms, and you mail them out to the person with a list that they have to complete everything and submit it and sign off on some things that they don't have a criminal history, et cetera. They have to mail it back to not your counselor now. Now they have to mail it back to the warden or the assistant warden of the camp, and it gets processed, and then they let you know when they're approved to come visit so that you can let them know they're approved. But they have to be pre-approved. So they're either on that list in your PSA report where your counselor can approve them pretty timely, or you have to send them forms that have to be processed through, which can take any amount of time in the world. When I got in there and I had my form to complete, I think one of the things I shared was it was a holiday weekend. And so my husband, Dean, was going to come in that very weekend, but the counselor who approves the PSA had gone on holiday that weekend. So he wasn't going to be back until Tuesday. So even though I had people on my PSA that I could get approved automatically, I didn't have a counselor to approve it. So he could not come till the next week.
And if you're banking on that visit, that's got to be extremely disappointing.
It was traumatizing because I didn't tell him goodbye. And I really wanted to just have some closure on it. And everything you do the first time you do it, when you go to prison, it feels like you've torn a raw bandage off. Everything's raw. You're really emotional. It's just a real difficult time. And so for a process not to work smoothly just adds to the discomfort and pain of what you're going through.
And of course, you couldn't pick up the phone to him and explain that either at this point, because nothing's alive for you to be an active part of prison camp at
up to 48 hours. I may not have the system turned on to get it approved where I can even give him a phone call. So again, if you go back to our beginnings where we're saying, get hold of somebody, or see if Big Sisters will let somebody know through an email or anything, you're there and you're safe. Those things all set your family and friends' mind at ease, and certainly set your mind at ease that you want to let them know you're going to be okay.
If you've got a young child, do they need to also go through that process of being approved on paper, or how does that work?
If they're under 12, not 12, under 12, so you may as well say 11 and under, they don't have to fill out the paperwork to come through and be processed. They do need to be a relative. So they need to be niece, nephew. They can't just be a random child of a friend who's coming with you. But your nieces, nephews, kids, whomever can come 11 and under without doing paperwork and even without being on the PSA report.
As long as they're with an approved person that's already on the list. Talk us through the visitation process, because obviously you would have spoken to your husband about what it was like from his point of view coming in. So do a walkthrough of what happens when you go to the visiting room.
Well, the first thing happens is you come up to the administrative offices and there's a window for check-in for anybody who's coming to the camp for any reason, to whether they're going to the offices, visitors room, or wherever they're going. And so you come up to those offices and you park out front. The first thing you have to figure out is that the buildings off to the side that are smaller, that look like, storage areas, are really the camp area, and they're not and they are part of the prison. Because my son, for example, drove straight on to the FCI, the main FCI, for a higher risk thing, and went through 2 sets of barbed wires and through a process that was traumatizing for him to figure out. Finally, when he said, and they said, "Who are you here to see?" And he said, "My mom." And that's a men's camp and I'm in a women's camp, that they realized he needed to go to the other camp. He was, of course, very relieved I wasn't in that prison. But, it's helpful to let them know the administrative offices are always tied. The camps are always tied with a bigger prison, and they want to look for the smaller offices that show the camp. You come up to the front and you're checking in, and you can only bring in your driver's license, not a billfold, not an envelope. If you bought a cash card previously, you can bring your cash card with you and your car keys. That's all you can bring. Not a purse, not anything else. And your pockets have to be empty, and you come to check in, and they're looking at what you're wearing. They may not like you having holy jeans. They may not want you to be in cutoffs that day. Like I've said through several times, it's the mood of the guard that's on duty that's going to have a lot to do with how smooth this is going to be, because they're gruff. And so you also have to come up there, and hopefully you know what your license plate number is, because you have to give them that for your car, for what vehicle you're in when you go out there. So you come in, you fill out this form, and like when my youngest son came to see me, he was just terrified with it. He got fever blisters. He's just shaking trying to fill out the form and make sure he gives them everything he wants. And of course he had everything he needed. And the second time he came to see me, he did something where he didn't have a shirt or something right. And so he just went out to the car and switched shirts and came right back in. But it just made him even more nervous. If they don't like the color of your shirt, they don't like the collar of your shirt, whatever it may be, you go change. And if you don't have it in your car to change into that's acceptable to them, we had like a farm store that was about a mile away. And you go down and you buy something. I had a niece come visit me, and she had open-toed shoes, not sandals, because you can't wear sandals, open-toed shoes. She had to go down and buy some shoes down at the farm store so she could get in to see me, because they weren't going to let her in with open-toed shoes.
Wow. So it really is dependent upon the mood of the guard. So obviously you have to wear prison greens to go and meet with your visitors. So I'm assuming that a big no-no is if a visitor shows up wearing those sort of colors or camouflage or anything like that.
Well, there's nothing that says you can't wear camouflage, and sometimes you get to wear it, but most of the time you don't. For some reason in their mind, you can't wear camouflage, but it doesn't say that anywhere. It doesn't say you can't wear orange, but I've watched my husband get told to go put a t-shirt on over an orange t-shirt that he had. So in their own minds, they come up with what they think you can and can't wear depending upon who the guard is on duty. And those are the rules that you're subject to. You fill out your paperwork, you submit it, and then you all sit up there and wait. And you want to get there a little bit before 9 in the morning for when it opens at 9, because if you don't get there before 9, right by 9:15, they close the whole place down for 10 o'clock count, and you will sit there. Actually, they throw you out and they make you go sit in your car till 10 o'clock count is over, which means you probably won't get in till 11. So you could have come at 8 in the morning, not gotten yourself in there like you should have by 9:15, and find yourself sitting out in the car till 11 o'clock. On the other side, you've got somebody waiting, excited to see you. And trust me, we're there pacing on the other side, trying to get as close as we can to admin without getting so close that we'll get in trouble. We're skipping our meals, and we're doing everything to be ready to come see them. And then you have to wait for them to call you. And sometimes, I don't think they're doing it to be mean, but sometimes they'll let the person, your visitor, in to come see you in the visiting room, and they'll forget to call you. And so then you have to go up and say, so-and-so come in, or like your person might have to come out and go, did you let so-and-so know I'm here to see her? They can say, of course I did. But, then you hear your name called over the PA, and it's time to go to the visitor's room to go see them. So then you go up there and you check in and you give them your lane. And also remember, when you're checking in, you can be searched. You won't be strip searched more than likely, but you can be searched. So they'll go through your pockets, they go through your shirts, they go through, make you take your coat off, anything they want for you to go inside. So I think they very much make you feel like a criminal and make you, I mean, just no matter what, it's for a place that advertises they encourage family visits. There's nothing inviting about it for families when they come to visit. So now you're going up there and you're giving them your lanyard, and they're going to keep that so they know you're in there, and they're making sure you're in prison greens, and they're checking your hands to make sure you don't have any jewelry you're not supposed to have on, or earrings or anything like that. And then eventually they let you go in and you go inside to see your family.
So tell me about the vending machines and how do you get access to food and water, etc., while you're in there for the visitor and the prisoner?
Well, after you get in there, you find out that you have to go back outside where there's a machine that you can buy a $5 card. And so you put $5 on this card, and then that $5, four of that $5 will spend on the vending machines. But you have to have that card as opposed to cash to use in all of the vending machines. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The other part that I always found was amazing is that, again, because we're the secondary prison to a men's prison, then when they came with food, if the men's had completely run out, then they would fill all of them up. And if they didn't have any left over, whether it was water, food, chicken pot pies were big to get in there. Sometimes hamburgers that you could all heat up in a microwave and stuff. Because you're in there, you could be in there from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. And if you're in there, you're missing your meals until dinner. Same for your family. They can't have anything else either. There's not like snacks they're going to offer you inside. So you either get it from the vending machine or you don't have it. And there is a water fountain, but you want to get some water or pop or something. Everybody usually wants to come in. So you go out, you buy your card, you come inside, you know how to use it. You hope there's things on there. Those of us who learned the ropes, who were there every weekend, learned to go in and immediately buy the pot pie or whatever, even before the visitor got there, or something they might want to eat because they'd run out. And so people who got there a little bit later, wouldn't have food to eat.
So were you able to eat from the vending machine as well as the inmate, or is it only the visitor that can eat from the vending machine?
No, we both could eat from it. I mean, it's all junk food. It's, chicken pot pies, and it's candy bars, and it's potato chips, and it's a variety of canned pops. There's some bottled water. I don't think there are burritos, but it's all just prepackaged junk food, so, you go and eat a couple candy bars and through the day and that kind of stuff. It's not exactly healthy, but that's what you've got.
So tell me, when you're in the visiting room, as you said, you could be in there for several hours. Do the guards do a roll call? How does that all transpire?
Well, so you're in there, and the first thing you're dealing with is that, again, depending upon the guard on duty and their mood, some guards want you to sit side by side and not face each other. Some guards want you to face across from each other. Some guards don't want you talking to anybody but the person who came to see you. A lot of guards don't want you doing that. Some guards will come in and walk through the place almost the whole time you're in there, which is not very comfortable feeling. You can come and give each other a hug when you first get there, but then no touching after that, including with the kids. There's a little room in there that's a playroom for the kids to go into, and they can watch a video. And then there's a room that we have an inmate checking out games and checking in games, and the games are so old and dated and torn up. And when I first got there, I said, can I buy some games and send them in and just have some new games and some more varieties of games? Absolutely not. Some charity had to donate them. We could not just send games in. And then there's a bathroom on each side. The prisoners had to use one side and the guests had to use the other side. So you couldn't go in and leave something in and them take it. And, you sort of get why you're both not going to use a common area, even if you didn't go in together. So they had that. And then they had an outside area that had a big concrete pad, had a little bit of a grass area where the kids could, kick a ball around. And the weirdness of that whole thing is that was the only fence in the entire place. They fenced in the visiting area where the kids played, as opposed to anywhere else in the entire camp when you're in prison. There was your fence. Another thing the guards do is they come in, usually around count time, somewhere around then. And I don't understand why, because when you get there as a prisoner, you hand them your lanyard. You say, here's my lanyard. They check it, make sure it's you, and they keep it. So then they come in, and whether they're walking around or not, two of them will come in around 10-ish, and they will say count time or whatever. We all have to get up in our greens and go get on one side of the room and get in line. And then as they call our name, we have to spout out our number, and we have to walk to the other side and remain standing until they've gone through all of us. And sometimes there could be two of you. Sometimes there could be one of you. I mean, imagine going through count and there's two of you. It's just stupid. Or there could be 10 or 12 of you. There could be 20 of you. They get all the way through, then you get to sit down. It's dead quiet. Every now and then a kid's going, "What are you doing, mommy?" And it is embarrassing. The very first time it happens, it's humiliating. It's like, gosh, did you just want to make sure we all know we're in prison? I mean, what is the point of this? You have my lanyard. You know I'm here. I checked in. They checked in. I don't know if they knew or they didn't care if they embarrassed you that much. And I just don't think you ever get used to it. I mean, I did it for 15 months and I never got used to having to stand up there and spout my number and walk across on the other side. So it's another one of those things. At what point do you quit paying a penance? You're already out of society and you're already giving up a lot, but you're still doing this and being treated, I just think you're just being treated poorly.
And so obviously that did not make you feel good. And I'm sure it doesn't necessarily make your visitor feel that great either.
No, I mean, partly they're sitting there and they think it's awkward. Now, my husband was a parole officer, so some of the things he was more familiar with than I was, and he could sort of tell me what's the lay of the land or what could happen, which was sort of strange. But, and like one of the times for visits, my first husband and his wife came to visit me. That's embarrassing to get it in front of your husband and do a count across, to let somebody know, that you're in prison. It's like, and they're just sitting there embarrassed for you as you're embarrassed.
I can imagine it must be very awkward trying to work your way through that. But I mean, some people would argue that you're in prison for a reason, so it should continue to be awkward. But I don't think it's very fair on, young children and so forth to see that, to be honest with you.
If you're trying to rehabilitate someone, you're trying to help them build their confidence and become a normal human being and feel good about themselves. What about that process makes you feel good about yourself so that you could come out and be a stronger individual? I mean, we all know that one of the biggest downfalls for a lot of prisoners, especially women, whether they're prisoners or not, is self-confidence. So what have you done if you keep stripping away any kind of identity that person's got, or you put them through some sort of a process that's just doesn't make sense? That's embarrassing. I mean, all you've done is diminish how they feel about themselves. And if you had a visitor every weekend, that's happening to you every weekend.
So you think that's detrimental in the process of rehabilitation for an inmate to integrate and be better in society coming out of this?
I would think everything they do in there would be positive and encouraging and promoting to get you to realize your strengths. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some discussion about what you've done wrong, but if you're in jail for 10 years and you can't do drugs, you're dry. You're not doing drugs. So if that's what you're in for, you're not doing that. So what other parts are we trying to fix here? We're trying to help you with self-improvement, learning social skills, learning just regular, what you're good at, what you're not good at. You're trying to get a GED or maybe get some other additional classes and training. But the more you tear a person down, the less likely they are to participate in anything else.
I don't think you're building up their confidence, as you say, to want to rehabilitate when they get back on the outside. From a guest's point of view coming to visit, from a visitor's point of view, do you think they were made to feel like they were the felon when they were there?
Well, they absolutely felt like a prisoner. Again, they have to be scrutinized for what they're wearing. If it's holes in their shorts, wrong color, open-toed sandals, not sandals, but shoes. Another situation that happened, which to me was amazing, is we're affiliated again with the men's prison. The men's prison, higher security, obviously has more things going on. For a while, they had a real serious problem with drugs. So they just decided not just searching the people, but they would search every automobile that came on site, to the men's or the women's. And you could see, coming out on the campus, you could see all these things where they block it off, where you can only come in one way in the row and go through this process with rows of guards and guns and dogs. And they're going to be there to process you through. And you could see some people getting out of the car and going the other way, or some cars backing out. They weren't coming across. Maybe they were intimidated. Maybe they weren't. I don't know. But that takes a long time when you're doing both the men's and the women's prison, because the men's prison could have 1,100 prisoners. And so there's a lot more checking in, and they're all coming in at the same time. So they come in for that. And, you also want to make sure that whoever's coming to see you doesn't have something silly on them. I don't know. Maybe they smoke weed or something, and they've got it in their car and they leave it in their car. Now, my husband doesn't. He's just a redneck, but he doesn't do that stuff. But let's say you did do that and you came on site, they search your car. So now if you've got anything like that, you're getting in trouble for that. You could be arrested. You could be in trouble for the things they're finding in your car that had nothing to do with your visit. So that's scary. So it takes longer. It's very intimidating. We can't imagine pulling into a prison with a line with guards and guns. I can't even imagine what that feels like. that's sometimes it happened twice while I was there. That's some of the entertaining things that you can have when you come for visiting.
Well, I'm thinking too, some people are licensed to carry a firearm, but I'm thinking that's the last place on earth that should be in your vehicle as you're going in for a prison visit.
Well, now that you mentioned it, that's exactly why I wanted to get hold of my husband and call him, because he is licensed to carry a firearm and he does carry for conceal and carry. And I did not want him to come on site with a gun, because that could have been a problem, because you're not supposed to enter government property with a gun. So you wanted to make sure whether you've got your conceal or carry, don't be stupid. And I think at the time he had one. And so he parked across the street and came walking over. And nobody said anything to him when he came walking over. But then when he was walking back, they're going, "Where are you going? Where have you been?" They were just asking him all sorts of questions about where was he going, because he didn't park on site, so he wouldn't enter government property with his conceal and carry gun.
From a visitor's point of view, they have to think about the rules that apply to an inmate, because indirectly they apply to them the moment they're sort of entering into your world to be able to take part in a visitation. And we talk about a lot, actually, since the mood of the guard. Tell us about what happened, because I know that you had a guard at one point that was very difficult and for some reason had singled out one of your bunkies.
We had a guard that a female guard that came out of California, and she was not a very big woman, but she was gruff and she was mean. And she was the one that would just walk in between and make sure you kept a space between each other and your shoulders didn't touch, and you had to sit side by side. And then she decided the girls should be strip searched when they leave, which never happened. And it didn't happen to me because I was a town driver and I was going in and out all the time. And so it didn't happen to me. But my bunkie, this guard did not like my bunkie and did not like her husband. He was Arabic, and I don't know if that had something to do with it. He literally came and saw her on a Saturday and wore an outfit, and he brought their 6-month-old son. And after the 6-month-old son checked through and couldn't bring all of his food in and everything, which was traumatizing enough, they get in, and she's upset that all of his food didn't make it in for the long day he's going to be there. They go stay overnight in a hotel. They come back in the next day. Dad's in the very same clothes. And the next day, she doesn't approve those clothes, and he has to go buy a different pair of clothing at that farm store. Now, they don't have extra money. They didn't have the money to go. They had to get a ride from somebody to go to the farm store, because you work on transportation, and he Ubered over, to get there for transportation. So it's a little bit of a nightmare, and he had to get it. But worse, every time my bunkie would go out, she had to be strip searched. And so when she was strip searched, she got so used to being strip searched, she just went in, she just squatted one time, she told me. And she came out so mad. I mean, she could get mad. She was Puerto Rican and she could get mad. And she was squatting, and she got back up after she squatted. And the woman goes, "Did I tell you could get up?" And just made her squat down and stay down there until she felt like she'd been there and she could get up. There's no reason for that, except for you're just messing with the person. And then she eventually let her get up and get dressed back up, and let her go out the back door to come back onto the campus.
Well, to me, that's an abuse of power, because that's such a power play, and wielding that upon someone. So if you want to make someone feel any more degraded, I mean, that's a move to do it.
We had 4 or 5 women on the campus who called their families and said, "Don't come see me anymore." Some of them were close enough to getting out, like in the next 2 months or 6 weeks or something. Like my other bunkie was in for 12 months exactly, and she had like 6 weeks left. And she called her boyfriend and said, "Don't come see me again. I refuse to get strip searched to come and see you. It's not going to happen." So now
this guard was calling out other inmates and doing the same thing as well.
Yes. I mean, randomly she picked who she wanted to, and then she'd say a few of them. She'd go, "No, you guys go, stop." And she'd get that person. And, I only know how mean she was to my bunkie. I don't know how mean she was to others. But there was just no call for it.
From your point of view, but certainly from mine, and thinking about it, having to do that and face the strip search to me would be so humiliating. I wouldn't enjoy that in any way, shape or form. Was that one of your big fears?
Well, think about when I checked in, all I could think about is, when am I going to be strip searched? It was all I could think about was, oh my God, what is this going to be like? I can't even imagine. You got to go and spread your cheeks. And I'm like, what? I'm just, oh my God, this is going to be a bad situation. And and also you could go in with few people, you've seen on TV where they all line them up and they all have to do it at the same time. And I'm like, please God, no. And so it didn't happen to me. I was very fortunate it didn't happen to me. But then you're watching, even if it happens to one at a time, and you're basically in a water closet that leads out to the camp out the back door. And so that you get in this little water thing, you've got to strip your stuff off. You've got to put it back on, standing on one foot, and then go back out. And it's just mean.
They do these things to curtail drugs being brought in and so forth. But I'm thinking, how much are you allowed to touch your visitor? Is any touching allowed, or are you allowed to hug when they first arrive? Are you allowed to kiss your husband? What is the process there?
Oh, no,
or is that once again on the mood?
You can't kiss them. I suppose every now and then I probably gave a peck to my husband and nobody caught it, but you can come and hug them when they first get there. And for people who haven't seen their family and they show up for the first time in 6, 7 years, 5 years, a year, whatever it is, so they'll run to them and give them a big hug, and then you have to let go and don't touch. I mean, you are not supposed to touch, and then you hug when you leave. And those are the only 2 times that you touch. I think most places allow you to have a hug when you come in and a hug when you come out. But like, you can't sit there and hold hands with each other. You can't sit there and, touch each other's leg or something while you're talking. You just can't do it. There's no intimacy whatsoever. I mean, the most romantic thing you can do is say, buy me a honey bun, honey.
I know for you, celebrating holidays is a very big deal and always has been. Anyone that knows you knows that that's a really big deal in your world. So tell me about some of the things that Dean would do when he would come and visit to bring a smile to your day.
He even made it so fun that the guard wanted to see the photo. So I swore I'd never get a picture taken while I was in prison. I mean, who wants to get their picture taken when they're in prison? My husband. So he would come, and some friends of ours came over to the house, and the kids had to make Thanksgiving sweaters or Christmas sweaters like in early December. And so for the first Thanksgiving, Dean decided to make a Thanksgiving sweater, and then a Christmas sweater, and then a New Year's Eve sweater. He did them for every holiday. And he'd always wear this vest that he wore, this green vest. And it was a green vest, and they let him in with it. So he'd always wear the vest, and then he'd come in, and then he'd come over, and you'd have to use your photo ticket thing to get in front of the thing for them to take your picture together. Okay. But the fun was to see what everybody wanted to know. Did he have a sweater this time? What was the decoration? What it looked like? And everybody wanted to see the photo. It made it fun. I mean, and he did quirky things like that. That was fun. I mean, at the end, when I was coming home for the last 30 days, he sent me numbered cards. And it said open this day 30, open this day 29, open this day 28, with a sweet little note to me of almost out, you're getting out and stuff. So there are very thoughtful things that people can do, that help you feel excited about getting out and help you feel remembered. Because I'm telling you, after you've been in there, especially around the year mark, things begin to drop off, and you begin to wonder if anybody really remembers you're there.
So how did you find that you got past that? Because as we know, you ended up doing 15 months.
I'm not going to tell you that I passed it completely, because you do start to feel like people are going to forget who I am. But I did have a husband who every single week after he came out, he would get on FaceTime, and he would get on and record a video about how my trip was. Now, his sharing of my week was not often how I thought my week was, not my interpretation of my life, but he would share how he thought my week was, how it was going, if I was having a hard week, a good week. And he would encourage everybody to send me cards. He'd just go, don't forget to send those cards in. He encouraged everybody to send, and then he started sharing with them that I was sharing cards with other people who didn't get cards. So then everybody thought they'd send me cards, but they didn't sign them so I could give them to somebody else. Well, when you don't sign them, I get called up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm in trouble. So that happened several times. And I'm like, please stop telling people to send cards, or at least sign them. So, I mean, some things could start out with good best intentions and just create a problem.
We sort of alluded a little bit before that the visiting room can be a very emotional place, and that sometimes people haven't seen a visitor in a very long time, and the line of communication hasn't been open. If people can afford to, because you could be visiting someone clear across the other side of the country, would you recommend that people try and maintain those visits for their loved ones?
I don't care if you can only do it once a year. If somebody's in for a long time, that person needs to see you, and you need to see that person. And especially every time you came in there and you had somebody in there for the first time, and I mean your first time, like, remember how I told you I cried with every person I had to say goodbye? Well, now I'm crying with every new person that came in to see me, because you're coming to see them from prison. You're embarrassed. It's horrifying. And but you're happy to see them. So you're teary-eyed. You have every emotion going through you can imagine. It's really daunting.
But it's important to keep that communication open for both sides, right?
I needed them to come see me because it helped for the next time they came. I didn't feel so overwhelmed, and you kept that relationship going. It really mattered a lot. You were humbled by the people who'd come and see you. My husband missed 2 weekends out of 15 months. I couldn't believe how well he came and was always there for me. I had one son that came once a month and another son that came about every quarter, because he just hated coming in and going through the process. It made all difference in the world to get to see him face to face and get to touch him, and just, it matters to them to see you're really okay and healthy. Or maybe you're not okay. Maybe you have been sick, and they really do need to get to see you and see how sick you are or not.
Thank you for listening to How to Go to Camp with Katrina McLaren and Cheryl Womack. For more support, check out the Women of Worth website, www.womenofworthwow.org, where you'll find helpful resources including Cheryl's books, Mummy Loves You Everywhere and How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison. Whether you're preparing for the journey or supporting someone through it, remember there's guidance, hope and a community ready to help you navigate this path.